Training basics require the owner or potential owner to understand the pet in order to come up with suitable solutions that will help create a happy atmosphere for both the pet and those around. Training techniques. The inside scoop on training your dog. Training basics. Synopsis. There are many aspects to look into when trying to train a pet, and the following are some of the area to consider and how to go about doing so. Basic information. One of the main areas that is cause for concern and stress is toilet training the pet. Some pets are easier to train in this area than others. There are ways to explore when it comes to toilet training a dog, and with a little research and a lot of patience, it is possible to find the best way that will suit both the dog and the owner well. Another area that is usually a cause for concern is how the dog behaves in any given environment. Some breeds adapt well to changes in their surroundings, such as noise levels, weather conditions, more people present, and anything else that alters the usual immediate environment of the animal, while others can be greatly disturbed. Training the dog to refrain from destroying anything and everything around is also another area that needs consideration. A lot of pet owners often complain about their belongings being damaged by their pets, and they feel powerless in addressing this problem. Here, with some research into the matter, the owner should be able to come up with solutions in dealing with this problem in a rational and non-threatening manner. Training a pet to accept a new addition to the family is also equally important, especially when there is an addition of a baby. What equipment do you need? Synopsis. Before deciding on what equipment to use to train the dog, the owner must first identify the purpose of the training and the end goal desired. There are a lot of issues that contribute to a training session, and having a clear goal in mind will help both the dog and the owner to work together to achieve the goal. What you will need. There is also the need to identify the type of training that will be required based on the goal set. If the training is only to create some boundaries for the dog, then the owner will be able to identify less vigorous training style to use to achieve the objective, with the least amount of heartache on both sides. The equipment needed will also be very basic, such as a dog leash, a dog collar, and perhaps some tasty treats. However, if the training is going to be for more focused goals, such as to create a championship show dog or seeing eye dog, then the equipment needed will be considerably different and definitely more custom-made to these goals. The more complex the goal, the more focused the training equipment will be. These types of equipment will usually have to be sourced from specialty shops that are well equipped to provide a variety of specifically designed items for dog training. The local pet shops will usually not carry such custom-made equipment, thus there is a need to know what is needed before the actual sourcing process begins. The owner should also be well versed in how to use the equipment purchased and understand its relevant purposes. Failing to do this very important task will not help in the actual training exercise, as the dog will only end up being confused and frustrated when the commands given vary too much and the equipment used does not correspond with it. Start with easy commands. Synopsis. Teaching a dog to respond to certain commands in a very specific way requires communicating with the animal on a level that can easily be understood. The dog's response to the commands will indicate the understanding of the command given, and if the desired outcome is evident, then the command is considered understood. Therefore, the Owners should ideally take the time of identify a few simple commands and put them into practice in a simple and non-threatening way. Start small. The following are some of the more popular commands that most dogs can relate to. Come. This is probably the most important command that should be taught to the animal as soon as possible. This is important in portraying to the dog who is in control and training the dog until an immediate response is received to the command will be needed. Said, this is another command that is popularly taught to the dog as it enables the owner to get the dog to focus and be still. Whenever the dog gets too excitable, this command is usually issued to quiet the animal and create a sense of calm. This command is also used when there is a need to stop the dog from moving around and is especially useful for meal times. Training the dog to sit and wait to be served its meal is a popular reason for this command. Stay. This command is usually given when there is a need to immobilize the dog immediately with any physical intervention. It is usually issued to keep the dog from causing a stir or becoming a nuisance to others around. However, this is not really an easy command to get the dog to participate in, as dogs are generally very curious, unfriendly animals, and restraining them can be a task. Moving on to more advanced commands. Synopsis. Once a dog has successfully learned all the basic commands, there may be an interest on the part of the owner to venture further into some advanced commands for the dog. These more advanced commands may be an extension of the present basic ones or something totally new. However, in most cases they are just an extension of commands already well versed for both dog and owner. The harder stuff. Training the place command is perhaps the next step because it is a follow-up to the sit command. This is a command where the dog actually stops at a specific point next to the owner and awaits further instructions. This can be further extended by getting the dog to make circular motions around the owner in the quest to be showier to onlookers. Another popular command that is considered more advanced is the sit and stay command. This teaches the dog to stay in one place, even when the owner moves away. If the dog instinctively follows, which is always the norm, the owner then has to get the dog to understand that they are required to remain in the designated place, directing the dog back to the position intended every time it moves will eventually create the understanding of what is required, thus making a successful command fruitful. Teaching the dog to remain in one place for long periods of time is also another advanced command that can be rather useful. This is especially so if the owner needs to go into shops or cafes where pets are not allowed. Being able to get a dog to sit quietly in spite of the distractions that may arise while the owner is inside will be well worth the effort. Once the dog understands the owner's commands, this actions will be easily achieved. House training. Synopsis. Although it seems very cruel to expect an animal to toilet it where humans can just look for a toilet, it will help to the animal to introduce some sort of regimen. This will help to ease the burden to having a stressed out pet and owner. No more accidents. The following are some steps that can be taken to help train the animal to be house trained with fewer occurrences of accidents. Picking a particular spot where the owner wants the dog to eventually identify as the toilet area is something that should be done in a consistent manner by observing when the dog is likely to need a toilet break and taking the animal immediately to the designated area. Until the deed is done will teach the animal the significance of the designated area. Also, lavishing praise when the deed is accomplished will further help to reinforce the idea behind taking the dog to the specified area. Take the time to understand the dog is also an important part of training the dog. Most dogs are not able to associate disapproval with the actual act of relieving themselves, as owners often don't catch them in the act. An owner's reprimand is usually only meted out upon discovery of the accident or mess. Therefore, the animal will eventually associate the disapproval to the mess and not the actual action of relieving itself. It is important for the owner to establish the disapproval at the time the deed is actually done rather than after, to ensure the animal understands the misdemeanor. Once this is established, both parties can work together to find a solution that would be as stress-free as possible. The owner should always remember not to put undue pressure on the animal, as it only has a limited capacity of understand things. Make sure to use rewards and not punishment. Synopsis. Research has proven, in many areas of a dog-responsive behavior, that rewarding the dog is far more productive than punishing it. This is very conclusive, and most dog owners now choose rewards over punishments based on the same evident results. Take a positive approach. A dog trained by using the punishment method will usually create an animal that is terrified of the owner or trainer. Dogs that respond fearfully also eventually become desensitized and in some cases choose to ignore the trainer or owner, simply due to the confusion the harness of the punishment causes. Dogs trained to comply simply based on fear of punishment are a pitiful sight to see and are very heartbreaking, especially for the more sensitive individual. This is bad for both the dog and the individual, who will only end up traumatized by the training sessions. Most dog owners will not be able to cope with such a sight, which may even cause the dog further confusion. In contrast, however, the positive approach of rewards within the training method is usually better received, with eventual desired results forthcoming. Pets usually respond well to rewards, as they will learn to associate certain behavioral patterns as pleasing to the owner, and therefore correct and acceptable. Although most dogs respond well to rewards and work accordingly with the owner to achieve the desired results, these rewards must be timed correctly to ensure the dog understands the particular action required is tagged to the reward given. Therefore, the reward should be instantaneous to the desired action as soon as it is performed. Failing to reward immediately will not help the dog to associate a particular action with the reward, and this will only contribute to confusion. The trouble with not training your dog. Synopsis. In order to be able to enjoy a good and unstrained connection between dog and owner, there has to be some training sessions conducted. There are several reasons as to why dog training is important and actually an essential part of having a dog as a pet. Why training is important. The following are some of the reasons why it is necessary to have training sessions. A dog that misbehaves can not only be an embarrassment to the owner but can also end up being a very dangerous element to contend with. Untrained dogs will not easily respond to commands, making them a menace and a nuisance. If the owner is unable to keep the dog under control, especially when there are children involved in the equation, the eventual outcome of everyday existence within the unit can be unpredictable and dangerous. An untrained dog can also be a menace to others around. This type of dog will not be able to differentiate between right and wrong, thus contributing to upsetting behavioral patterns such as digging up the garden, encroaching into the neighboring areas, stealing things, and chewing on them or playing with them, causing damage to the items, running around madly and causing chaos, and many other destructive behavior patterns which are equally upsetting. Due to such unacceptable behaviors, the dog may eventually have to be constantly restrained or housebound, as this would seem like a better option than allowing it to roam about and cause problems for the owner. This of course is not an ideal situation, as this will also not benefit either party and might even cause the dog stress due to the loss of freedom. Wrapping up, don't ever think that a dog is a lost cause. Always remember that with some effort a dog can surely be trained to the owner's desire. There is a reason why dogs are man's best friend and have been for many years. They are very loyal companions that would love nothing more than to please their master, in most cases, until the owner breaks the trust of the dog for some reason. You can surely do it, just apply some of the above training techniques. Good luck.